And now we are picking up with a new section, continuing on with the aftermath of the Six-Day War and the events of 1967, wrapping up the 60s, heading into the 70s. So what happens coming on from here? We have what's referred to as the Jesus Movement and the Summer of Love. So a very famous cover of Life magazine there, as there's a bit of a spiritual awakening and revival. Sister Leslie lived just down the road, right? Yep. Recognize any of your cousins or anyone here? No?
Well, I got to find out later after that, my brother was baptized there.
Yep.
I just found out a couple years ago, his granddaughter was baptized there.
How about that?
Same place.
So this was a pretty big deal. So all this emphasis on getting back to Jesus. Pretty cool. Well, that's, yeah. In fact, Jesus even makes the cover of Time magazine. So, hey, you know Jesus is a big deal then, right? He's finally arrived. So while all that era of good feelings is happening, we have the Summer of Love. This guy's either asleep or he's just really, really relaxed. Yeah, on the header for this class series, this is actually the image I have introducing this class for Bible Patterns in Modern Times here on our YouTube channel. So we've got that, we've got, those were the days, huh? Brother Clay, do you have an outfit like that? No, not quite?
Nah.
Nah. Sister Carolyn, do you have flowers in your hair? No. Sister Carolyn, for the record, did not have flowers in her hair. Alrighty. But the good news is, you guys still remember. You guys haven't partaken of any things that cause you to forget all that stuff. Yeah, okay. Good to hear. Far out, man, yes. So here we have the Jordan River and the sea. Well, this was mentioned in the Dragon's Prophecy. The whole movement to, and the chanting from the river to the sea starts happening. Well, what's between the river and the sea? Well, there's Jerusalem. Here's this is the nation of Israel. So the whole concept of river to the sea is removing the people who are living from the river to the sea, and that is the people of Israel. So when you hear that phrase, that is nothing short of a genocidal wish to kill or remove the Jews from their homeland, from the river to the sea, to purge and cleanse the land of them. So that started happening around that time, and that's February of 1969. That becomes a popular chant. Also in 1969, we have Deputy Police Inspector Seymour Pine obtaining a search warrant for Stonewall due to the illegal activities happening. This is the same person. And actually, back when we were talking about Return of the Gods, we actually used the word avatar. Refresh, Jonathan Kahn mentioned this in Return of the Gods, that the word avatar comes from a Sanskrit root word meaning descent. In Eastern religion, speaks of the descent or manifestation of a deity in bodily form, an incarnation. A human being who serves as a vessel for the incarnation of a god, as in a spirit, a host, someone who's carrying out the personality characteristics or even the desires and the itinerary and the game plan, the goals of that god or goddess. So at Stonewall, we have Ishtar. In her history and in her mythology, she gets imprisoned and apprehended and arrested. So what happens when the police come to Stonewall, this person gets apprehended and arrested. And the crowd starts chanting in response to that and is not very happy. They get agitated. And so this is the only picture actually of that very first night. The riots lasted for a few days, but this is the only picture from that very first night. of those rites, starting Sunday, June 29th, Saturday night into Sunday of 1969. Marsha Johnson was very much actively involved in all of this, just as Ishtar Inanna. She has all of her sexual forces who are being transvestites, who her priests are dressed as women, and different things are happening. So too, and she has, we read in the Bible about male cult prostitutes, those things happen. So Marsha Johnson, a modern day version of those things as this is all going on. And these are things associated with Inanna Ishtar, and they're all being manifest here at Stonewall. Ishtar Inanna is the storm goddess, amongst other things. And so when you see a female powerful being associated with storms, it ties back to Ishtar Inanna. It all goes back to her. This person whose arrest ignited the whole thing, who was the avatar of Ishtar Inanna, her name was, her stage name, her persona, her presence was Stormy. So here she is, literally an embodiment of everything Ishtar was accomplishing here. And by the way, just so we don't forget the significance, the real significance of the Stonewall event, while it's celebrated for a landmark revolution, what really happened at Stonewall was when the police arrived and they arrested and the riot broke out. And we covered this at the time, we went through this in more detail. Police officers were trapped inside the building while the protesters were outside, and they tried to set the place on fire and burn the police officers alive. So we've got attempted murder of officers here. That was what happened at this event, and so not exactly something to be celebrating here, but that was such as was the possession and possessive mob mentality of the goddess here and the events there. So that brings us out of the 60s, and as more from the rights there, and now we get into the 70s. So we've had Baal with the removal of God from the mainstream, with Supreme Court ruling, for example, like the 1962 case, with removing God from the schools and all of that. We've now seen following Baal is Ashtoreth or Ishtar Inanna with the sexual immorality and stuff. After Ishtar Inanna comes Molech with the child sacrifice. And so here we are ushering in the 70s, 1970. That's not too charming a picture there. And so with Molech, here is the thought from Jonathan Cahn in The Avatar. So, with Molech comes, remember, after Baal, after Ishtar Inanna, the next, and one leads to the other, it opens the gates for the other. Now, with the sexual revolution, now the next step, the next phase, Molech now comes in the guise of self-interest, liberation, convenience, and the pursuit of happiness, gain, and success. His shrines now took the form of abortion clinics, and his stone altars became operating tables, but it was nonetheless Molech. So as we go forward into the 70s, and we see this play out, again, this is a review from prior classes. January 20th of 1970, Constance Cook in New York introduces legislation for legalization of abortion. And that's where this is happening. We have February 20th to the 24th of 1970. We have Hawaii actually beating New York to the punch and issuing legislation from those two senators, one Democrat, one Republican, joining forces to accomplish this. Then we have on March 3rd, we have the very famous court case known as Roe v. Wade. There are documents related to the case that are actually had gone on eBay. So that's that. So here's a thought from Jonathan Cahn on this, going into the 70s here. Let's see, 241. So again, ironically, this ties into Jubilees. So both abortion in America and the case of Roe v. Wade began in the year 1970. So what we will see, and we covered this in prior classes with the Josiah Manifesto, there will be a Jubilee even for that. What that ushered in, there will be movement in the reverse direction of 50 years later, and we'll refresh that as we go. So that bringing us into the 70s, I know a fair amount of review, but any reactions, observations, thoughts, or questions, not only on the events, but more importantly, the spiritual activity behind the scenes that was playing out? All good? Everyone kind of remember these things as we've gone through them before, pretty familiar? Okay. And we'll see, with the new book, The Avatar, where this all goes into moving forward from here. So that brings us into the 70s, and we'll stop that section here, stop that recording. And we will close this one out and move on from 1970 in the next section.